Mingle. Yeah, it's hot. Yeah, because you said they're about 2 minutes. It's about 2 minutes rest. And he likes to wait usually a minute or so, so it's up to you. We'll wait for your okay. Okay, all right.
Good morning, everyone. Let's practice a little unity by singing together. We'll start with hymn number 86. Stand if you wish, and if you're able, because your singing's a little better when you're on your feet. Thank you. Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity
grant me no serenity. Fill me with a vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find no home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal, religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to each and every one of you. We embrace all that you bring with you this morning, your unique beliefs, your backgrounds, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences. All that helps make you who you are is welcome. This is true for those who hear this every Sunday, as well as those who may be joining us for the first time. And of course, to those that are streaming, we welcome you as well. Thank you for being with us today as well. You are all equally embraced and appreciated for all that you bring with you. There are no announcements this morning, so I'd just like to encourage you for a few minutes of saying good morning to your fellow neighbors. So for now, let's continue with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope, may this small flame be an offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth is lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it's been found.
Welcome to this morning, this day, this opportunity for us to come together in community. It's a time of joy, of comfort, and sometimes challenges. The Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we think we've figured out all of life's questions or that we've got it right. We've come here to learn about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to be vulnerable, how to forgive, how to create trust and compassion for one another. Let us move into worship, willing to be authentic with each other, honest with ourselves, and open to connection in all its forms.
This hymn book is full of a lot of beautiful songs we don't know. And the worship team each week does its best to integrate the ideas of the whole service, illustrated with occasional poetry and music from this book. So if you'll turn in your book to hymn number 391, or see the words up here if you choose, this is a song that's not very well known. I think it's beautiful. So we're all learning it together today. Michelina and I will sing through it once, and then we ask you to do it twice through. It's just one verse. We'll repeat it, everybody together, voice still and small.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, all through the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing again. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Hello? All right, good morning. I need my trusty assistant here too. Thank you, Max. Give them to me in order. All right. This morning we are going to listen to a story about a very important man in Unitarian Universalism. We even have a room in our building named after him. This is a story about a boy who lived outdoors. This is a picture, a photograph. If you can see up front, there it is. This is a picture of I'll be showing you pictures of some of the places he liked to tromp around as a kid. He loved the His name was Henry David Thoreau. Life, he loved nature. It was almost as if he had a still, small voice inside him that whispered, "Go outside, be amidst the trees and lakes and grass. This is your true home." Henry listened to that voice all his life. This is his story. Henry lived in Concord, Massachusetts more than 100 years ago. The town had some buildings, but all around there were forests and ponds, rivers and fields. Henry loved being outdoors. Outside, Henry was never bored. He was busy watching, finding, and enjoying nature. Outside, Henry felt at home. Henry kept notes about nature and liked to share ideas about what he saw. Henry went to school and church, and he helped with the chores of his family. But most of all, he loved being outdoors. Henry grew up and went to college. He read a lot of books. He was especially interested in books written by transcendentalists. Can you try saying that word? No. It's kind of there we go. It's kind of a big word. They believed that appreciating the beauty of, there you go. They believed that appreciating the beauty of nature is one way to connect to the spirit of life or God. Henry listened to that small voice inside him, telling him to spend time outside, exploring the icy snow or the summer heat, even in 100-degree days when there was no air conditioning to return to. He became friends with transcendentalists who agreed that even grown-ups can learn a lot by spending time in nature. Henry hoped that one day he could live very simply in nature. He knew he would feel at home. That one, perfect. Thank you, Max. So one transcendentalist named Ralph Waldo Emerson told Henry, "You should keep a journal about all the things you notice in nature." He also invited Henry to try out his idea of living very close to nature. Henry called this his great experiment. He decided to make a very simple home on a large area of land that surrounded Walden Pond. The land was owned by his friend Emerson, who allowed him to live there in exchange for Henry's help doing some repairs around his house. Henry decided to build his home as small, simple, and plain as it could be. He wanted to spend most of his time outside. He wanted to feel close to the land. Henry wanted to have time to notice and write about all the changes in nature, the birds, the plants, the leaves on the trees. He made a list of all the things he would need to live on Walden Pond, and he tried to include as few things as possible. The list included some tools for farming, a bed, a writing desk, a table, and 3 chairs. With the help of his friends, Henry built a small cabin, just one room, 10 feet wide and 15 feet long. He used old wood, bricks from other houses, windows that nobody else needed, and to build his small cabin. When it was completed, Henry moved in. Although his friends and family understood what Henry was doing, townspeople found his experiment about living in nature very confusing. They wondered why he would want to live that way. But Henry listened to that small, still voice. He felt at home in nature. He planted food for himself to eat, using just a small amount of land. He took great care to notice all the things around him. He watched the changes in the Walden Pond over the seasons. He found everything from grasshoppers to wildflowers to be beautiful and interesting. Henry lived on Walden Pond for more than 2 years. He came to town to see people, to work for Emerson, to get some supplies. He even had his mom do his laundry. But mostly, Henry remained at his home in the woods. Sometimes people would visit him there. The children, of course, liked his small cabin because they understood the feeling of being at home in nature. Thank you, assistant. And then, one day, Henry decided he was finished. He'd learned so much from living in nature that he felt ready to try something else. He felt ready to make his home with people again. But he never forgot his time on Walden Pond. He wrote books about it, and he taught other people that caring about nature is important. Some people say that Henry David Thoreau was one of the most important naturalists that ever lived. Henry was able to listen to that voice inside him that told him he was at home in nature, that he could take care of his soul there. He was able to live his dream. He felt at peace. As he finished his book about his time at Walden Pond, he wrote this: "I learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected." And with that, I will invite the congregation to sing the children out to the Thoreau room for our social hour.
How delightful to have the children back in with us again in this story time. This is a time in the service where we have the opportunity to gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this church and its mission to the larger world. And we can do all of this listening to the music of Chopin.
It's now time to kindle our candles of care for those who are most in our hearts and minds today. I want to again mention Tanya Workmaster, who's recovering from hip surgery. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others and who are here and who are in our hearts this morning. You're welcome to say their names aloud if you so wish. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community of compassion.
Our meditation this morning is from Unitarian Universalist minister Elizabeth Tarbox. None of us ever really walks in another's shoes or knows the innermost rooms of a person's heart. None of us truly knows the lonely places of another's journey or the causes of the lines around another's eyes. Therefore, let us be gentle with each other. Let us listen more than we speak and accept more than we judge. Let our open, outstretched hands reach and touch, that we may walk along together for just a little while in friendship and in trust.
For my reading today, I will share a few words of the soul by Wisława Szymborska. Dick Steele helped me with that pronunciation before he left, after I messed it up in the first service. So, we have a soul at times. No one's got it nonstop for keeps. Day after day, year after year may pass without it. Sometimes it will settle for a while, only in childhood's fears and raptures, and sometimes only in astonishment that we are old. It rarely lends a hand in uphill tasks like moving furniture or lifting luggage or going miles in shoes that pinch. It usually steps out whenever meat needs chopping or forms have to be filled. For every 1,000 conversations, it participates in one, if even that, since it prefers silence. Just when our body goes from ache to pain, it slips off duty. It's picky. It doesn't like seeing us in crowds or hustling for a dubious advantage, and creaking machinations make it sick. Joy and sorrow aren't two different feelings for it. It attends to us only when the two are joined. We can count on it when we are sure. We can count on it when we're sure of nothing and curious about everything. Among the material objects it favors, clocks with pendulums and mirrors which keep on working even when no one is looking. It won't say where it comes from or when it's taking off again, though it's clearly expecting such questions. We need it, but apparently it needs us for some reason too. Thank you, John. That's very beautiful. A soul, Aristotle says, is actually a body that has life. A physical body where life means the capacity for self-sustenance, growth, and reproduction. If one regards a living substance as a composite of matter and form, then the soul is the form of a natural, or as Aristotle sometimes says, an organic body. According to the dictionary, Tom Raspa says, soul is a person's moral or emotional nature, their sense of identity. But in reality, we know it's something that's indefinable. Some ideas of the soul envision it as being ephemeral. Others understand the soul as being the essence of who we are. A soul can't be seen or touched. It can only be perceived within. And even then, its presence is often fleeting. Raspas says our soul is located in a place so deep inside us, it can often be forgotten as we go about our busy lives. And then, in a quiet moment, or when we are immersed in or exposed to certain activities, the soul surprises us and makes itself known. This moment can come to life by a book we are reading, by a piece of music we are listening to, or even by a small act of kindness that catches us off guard. It can be awoke by something as simple as watering our houseplants, or looking out the window on a winter's day and seeing a woodpecker land on the branches of a slumbering tree. We'd probably like that right now. Is living a soulful life at odds with our disposable society? It is the opposite of reality TV programs and manufactured pop music and gossipy discourse. The things that touch the soul are often deeper and have more meaning. This may involve retreating from the world as much as participating in it. Thomas More says, "The world is changing so fast that some days I feel dizzy from it. Religion is changing in ways we could not have predicted 10 years ago. The question is, can or should we live without it? Or should we rethink what religion is all about?" Religion is not only changing, in many ways, it is disappearing, going the way of the bookstore, print newspaper, and landlines. His book, A Religion of One's Own, focuses on reimagining religion. Do we ever appreciate or even understand how deeply changes in science and technology or culture affect us? While science tries to answer all your questions and technology tries to make life more livable, we still can get depressed or anxious. Purpose and meaning may be absent from your life, and whether you like it or not, you have a soul that complains when you neglect it, and that soul needs religion. When you meet a person with soul, you'll get the feeling that she has really lived, that she has a strong personality. Soul is the invisible, mysterious, and softly radiant element that infuses your being and makes you human. It gives you a sense of meaning, feeling, connections, and depth. Have you met someone that you could just sense had soul? You sensed a glow about that person, could feel that they are alive and present, that they are a real person? Without soul, we are dead. There is no value or real substance, no possibility for love and care, no heart and no real power or tenderness. Life without soul may be shallow and metallic, not really touching each other and not engaging with the world. One may feel a hollow emptiness and a vague sense of being lost without soul. Bringing soul to everything we do is important, and to do so, we need a vivid sense of the sacred of religion. Unitarian Universalism offers avenues of soul searching through, first, our third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. Secondly, through our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And thirdly, as well as our first source, which is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. And finally, our sixth source, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. When we speak of care of the soul, we really are addressing self-care as it pertains to the world in which we must engage. Care of the soul, of mind, of body, and of the spirit. Self-care is really soul care. Our soul needs certain things: a sense of home, deep friendship, and casual friendliness, a poetic and metaphorical appreciation for words and images, attention to night dreams, the fine arts, an intimate relationship with the natural world, acquaintance with animals, memory in the form of storytelling or keeping old buildings and objects that have meaning. We can do things to care for the soul, such as reconciling our sexuality and spirituality, caring for children, finding work that we love, incorporating play and fun in everything we do, dealing effectively with loss and failure and inadequacies. All of this is soul work, but we also must address our spirit. The difference between soul and spirit is important to understand. Your spirit directs your attention to the cosmos and the planets, to huge ideas and vast adventures, to prayer and meditation and other spiritual practices, to a worldview and a philosophy of life. Your spirit expands heart and mind, gives you vision and courage, and eventually leaves you with a strong sense of meaning and purpose. Your soul is more intimate, deep and concrete. You care for your soul by keeping up your house, learning how to cook, playing sports or games, being around children, getting to know and love the region where you live. Your soul allows you to become attached to the world, which is kind of love. When the soul stirs, you feel things, both love and anger. And you have strong desires and even fears. You live life fully instead of skirting it with intellectual or excessive moralistic worries. Our spirit inspires, while our soul delves deep into the complexities of an issue. My spirit likes to have a planning meeting. My soul likes to have a long and deep conversation. My spirit sets goals, while my soul plods along, going deeper all the way. My spirit prefers detachment, while my soul sinks into its attachments to places, people, and home. UU Minister A. Powell Davies reminds us that the purpose of life is to grow a soul, and that this is the goal of spiritual growth. Care of self and care of soul begins with self-compassion. A person must love herself or himself to make self-care a priority. It is compassion that motivates a person to care for themselves and for another person. Care of soul is important work, as it is at the heart of self-care, and without it, we are diminished in many ways. M. Scott Peck wrote, "Life is difficult, and love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own and another's spiritual growth. The care of the soul is also self-love, not as narcissism, but as a means to greater empathy, And from this point of view, care of the soul is a means of both deepening connection and caring for community. In his book, Care of the Soul, A Guide for Cultivating Depth and Sacredness in Everyday Life, Thomas More states, "To the soul, memory is more important than planning, art more compelling than reason, and love more fulfilling than understanding. The most minute details and the most ordinary activities carried out with mindfulness and art have an effect far beyond their apparent insignificance." Moore continues by saying, "Just as the mind digests ideas and produces intelligence, the soul feeds on life and digests it, creating wisdom and character out of experience. The wisdom and character is crucial for deepening connections and the spirituality that has been associated with the rise of interest in the soul." It is important to recognize that the nature of the soul is difficult to map. If maps of the soul eliminate mystery, they also eliminate the soul. We need to prepare for vague definitions and hazy boundaries. Spirit and mystery are closely connected. Not everything that is mysterious is spiritual, while the genuinely spiritual always retains an element of mystery. And for this reason, maps of the soul should not be expected to eliminate the mystery that is inevitably a part of the psychospiritual nature of persons. Understanding the soul and its care requires exploration of the inner world of persons. There is nothing neutral about the soul, Moore says. It is the seat and the source of life. Either we respond to what the soul presents in its fantasies and desires, or we suffer from this neglect of ourselves. The power of the soul can hurl a person into ecstasy or into depression. It can be creative or destructive, gentle or aggressive. Power incubates within the soul and then makes its influential move into life as the expression of soul. If there is no soulfulness, then there is no true power. And if there is no true power, then there can be no true soulfulness. So how does our soul grow? Anais Nin said it best, "We do not grow absolutely chronologically. We grow sometimes in one dimension and not in another, unevenly. We grow partially. We are mature in one realm and childish in another. The past, present, and future mingle and pull us backward, push us forward, or fix us in the present day." The soul is a messy thing for Unitarian Universalists. We are burdened by whatever childhood definition or images of soul that were imposed upon us during early religious education, or that we learned through osmosis. We are handicapped by a vacuum of contemporary reflection on the soul by any scholars, theologians, or scientists that we trust, precisely because the word itself carries so much baggage. The burden of childhood definition we carry when it comes to the word soul is in the speculation about whether there is a material entity that is the essence of life. Some believers in the soul aren't interested in proving that a soul has a material existence. They may, in fact, believe that the soul is a non-material entity that does exist and that leaves the body upon the death and goes on to heaven or hell. Some believers in the soul aren't sure about the heaven or hell part and don't want to restrict the soul to humans or even to conscious beings. They see the soul as the life spark that comes from God and animates all life. Some don't believe in the soul at all, except as a superstition or a metaphor from literature and poetry. And it is to poetry that we will often first turn in any meditation towards a common understanding of the soul. Mary Oliver captures all the contradictions and ambiguities inherent in the word in her poem, Some Questions You Might Ask. Is the soul solid like iron? Or is it tender and breakable like the wings of a moth and the beak of an owl? Who has it and who doesn't? I keep looking around me. The face of the moose is as sad as the face of Jesus. The swallow opens her white wings, the swan opens her white wings slowly. And in the fall, the black bear carries leaves into the darkness. One question leads to another. Does it have a shape like an iceberg? Like the high eye of a hummingbird? Does it have one wing like the snake and the scallop? Why should I have it and not the anteater who loves her children? Why should I have it and not the camel? Come to think of it, what about the maple trees? What about the blue iris? What about all the little stones sitting alone in the moonlight? What about roses and lemons and their shining leaves? What about the grass? Perhaps our conversations about the soul should be like that. Why speculate about something that can't be proven? And even if somehow we could obtain the key to the box of knowledge that would tell us everything about the soul, maybe it would be better to just leave it buried and unopened. Soul is not a thing, says Moore, but a quality of dimension of experiencing life and ourselves. It has to do with depth, value, relatedness, heart, and personal substance. He did not use the word here as an object of religious belief or as something to do with immortality. He is talking about something very different from a metaphysical entity, and he uses a psychotherapist's definition of the soul inspired by Jungian psychology, mythology, and art. And he goes on to say, care of our soul begins with observance of how the soul manifests itself and how it operates. We cannot care for our soul unless we are familiar with its ways. Observance is a word from ritual and religion, and it means to watch out for, but also to honor and keep, as in the observance of a holiday. The serve in observance originally referred to tending sheep. Observing the soul, we keep an eye on its sheep, on whatever it's wandering and grazing, the latest addiction, a striking dream, or a troubling mood. Care of the soul, then, is an observance and an honoring of the signposts, the scenery, the obstacles, and companions of your inner journey. Sounds simple enough, so why use the word soul? Soul is the word in the English language that describes a meeting place, a crossroads, where we encounter so much at once. The world around us, the conscious and unconscious individuals that surround us, the history that we pull behind us, and the aspirations and values that we envision in front of us. Our soul certainly does exist while we live. There is no life without soul. And when we die, our souls disappear. Where they go is the big mystery. Our soul teaches us to endure. It is part courage and part wisdom that grows from life experiences, from unearned and unexplained suffering. It is something we sense that is either lost or changed when we are in the presence of death, and something that helps us to choose to live in the face of it. Sometimes it's a crisis, a profound loss, or a dramatic change in circumstances that puts us squarely at a crossroads where soul is all we have. As a shepherd continues to live his life on the farm after the loss of his wife and child, alone now with his sheep, he sums up what he has learned about soul. I know 3 ways to see the soul, he thinks to himself. Though not with the eyes, each way is a mode of loving, each a mode of loving vision. One way to see the soul is passion. A second way is parenthood. And a third way is in husbandry. In the passion of his love for his wife and their child, in their role together as parents, and in the daily caring for all the outward things that sustain his sheep and his farm, this shepherd feels he understands all that he can know about soul. All of these insights are echoed in Thomas More's understanding of what constitutes soul, but More adds one more way of seeing the soul, which is a key we can use each and every day to open that mysterious box we have buried in our psychic backyard. Tradition teaches that soul lies midway between understanding and unconsciousness, and that its instrument is neither the mind nor the body, but imagination, which is the fourth way of seeing the soul. To say that imagination is the key to understanding your soul, however, is not to concede that the soul is less than real. If we are truly observant and honoring of the daily messages that our souls send us, and if we can greet these messages with imagination rather than literalism, we find that our soul becomes a true companion, easing our passage through this very real and very difficult world. What are these daily messages of the soul? Ironically, many of them are symptoms, physical and emotional signals that we usually try to suppress or ignore or simply wait out until they go away. People experience symptoms that they don't understand and that they want to go away. And when we have the good sense to invite people, through acts of imagination, to befriend rather than antagonize their symptoms, they may not want to hear it. To suggest that a painful symptom or a family tragedy or a difficult emotional setback might also be a vehicle for knowing the soul sounds too pat, too superficial. But it is just the opposite. One of the most puzzling ideas that Carl Jung ever put forward in his writings was this one. He said the soul is for the most part outside the body. This sounds so extraordinary because all our usual thinking about the word soul associates it with the mind and locates it inside the body. And to say that the soul is mostly outside the body is to connect the soul with our actions in the world in an essential way. Your soul feeds on the life around it. Jung says, to the soul, the ordinary is sacred, and the everyday is the primary source of religion. For this reason, any community that is concerned with soul must recognize the connection between soul, daily life, and spirituality. This includes our very own UU community. The soul needs a vivid spiritual life that keeps us connected to the outside world. A spiritual life that does not smother the soul in rote that is trying to pass for meaningful ritual. A spiritual life that offers an articulated worldview and a sense of relatedness to the whole. A spiritual life that balances a sense of transcendence with the traditions and values that have been part of our family for generations. This is how soul and church are connected. Everybody has a soul, but not everyone knows how to touch and heal and nurture the soul within their lives. Care of the soul can be encouraged by the recovery or the sustenance of a formal religious tradition. The practices of preparation for and observance of the signals of the soul are part of what a religious tradition is all about. And the opportunities that church creates for conversation and mutual support in groups small and large, formal and informal, helping us develop the courage and the language to talk about soul. It is both a great gift and a great curse of many Unitarian Universalists to be more comfortable with the intellectual path of religious understanding versus a deep dive into soulful expression. Yet all of us know that our lives, our values, our sense of being at home in the world have been created not only by our intellectual encounter with the world, but by our experience of joy at connectedness, of anger at injustice, and of wonder at overwhelming beauty, experiences that can all be wordless and soulful. On one of my many business trips, I had the opportunity to visit the Grand Canyon. This was a solo journey. And one morning I awoke very early, and I had the whole canyon to myself, so to speak. I was standing at one of the overlooks on the south side of the canyon, completely alone as dawn broke. I was filled with the stillness, the colors, the grandeur, the expansive natural beauty of that moment fed my soul. It is forever etched in my mind. Soul is the place where all external experiences meet together with our ideas and our collective unconscious in order to prepare us for the internal spiritual feast that is one of life's greatest gifts. Obviously, this is to be continued. How will you care for your spirit and soul today? Thank you.
Here in Spokane, we could modify this song title a little bit to imagine I brought my spirit to the lake. But the rhyme isn't quite as good as the sea, so let's just sing it as it stands. I brought my spirit to the sea. Join in, please. My spirit to the sea, I stood upon the shore, I gazed upon infinity, I heard the waters roar, and then there came a sense of peace, some whisper calmed my soul, some ancient ministry of stars had made my spirit whole. I brought my spirit to the trees that loomed against the sky. I touched each wandering careless breeze to know if God was nigh. And then I felt an inner flame that fiercely burned my tears. Upright I rose from bended knee to meet the asking ears.
The words of St. Augustine. Since love grows within you, so beauty grows. For love is the beauty of the soul. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom Averim Shalom.